All right, so now let's hop into part 2 of the 10 things that I wish I would have known before coming back to Tanzania. My name is Ashley, and on my channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about living, moving, and doing business on the continent of Africa. If you're interested, please be sure to subscribe and leave me a comment below if this content resonates with you. All right, so let's jump in. Number 6, properly structuring a business. This is important, y'all. Like, I've had several businesses in the US, I've sold businesses, and I probably didn't structure them all properly. I was learning and just kind of going by default. Do not bring that energy into a foreign country when doing business, because it's a headache if you don't properly structure. And so, like I've mentioned in previous videos, having access to certain professionals is so important. Proficient, proper attorneys around business when structuring a business is really important. So the first thing as a foreigner that you must know when doing a business is that you have to have a Tanzanian as a part of your business. And however that structure looks is how it will look in the duration of your company. Now, there are ways to shift it around and do the things, but it's really important that you get it right the first time. Not saying it can't be fixed after you've made mistakes, but you'll save yourself a lot of time and money if you do it properly the first time. So I transparently kind of did my own thing, went by a whim, did something with my partner, and it ultimately worked out, right? But as we're growing and as we're shifting and things are changing and life happens, there's some structure things that we can work on, right? And luckily, I have access to a really excellent attorney, and I'm able to do what needs to be done in order to properly structure our business with all of the changes that are happening. So that's the number 6 thing. I wish I would have known that. However, it's worked out for me, but just know that when you're structuring a business, you want to do it the right way. All right, and number 7, so clearly understanding the visa options. A lot of us expats, we come over with this concept of citizenship. Getting citizenship is not an easy process in any country, especially when you come to the continent. Many countries do have programs like citizenship by investment, citizenship through marriage, and those things are accessible. But knowing the actual visa options that apply to you are very, very important. So if you do decide to marry and get residency or citizenship eventually, that doesn't mean you can work. That doesn't mean you can legally earn money. So that might not be the only thing you need to focus on, right? If you want to operate a business, you cannot completely operate a business on a tourist visa. And so making sure that you're doing your due diligence and you're aware of those options is imperative, right? And so when we first arrived, my daughters were able to get student passes because I enrolled them into school. And so while I thought that their student passes lasted for 5 years, in fact, it was 2. So for me, having a business, and we're applying for work permits and business visas, both of those things look different. And figuring out what's gonna best align for my goals and my needs is something that I'm still working through now. And so yes, you can learn on the ground, but having a clear picture of what that looks like is important, because here in Tanzania, your visa initially as a tourist, it lasts you a year, but you've got to exit the country every 90 days. And so not getting on social media and complaining about the rules and the laws of the country that you're looking to seek a new life in, don't do that. Don't do that. Just be aware of the laws and create a plan accordingly so that you can be most successful. Okay? The number 8 thing, clearly understanding the laws of land purchases. Okay, so this is a big thing that I hear a lot of people on the YouTube, in the comments, on social media complaining about and saying, oh, I got scammed. I didn't, I trusted the wrong person. And yes, like, I have empathy for everyone that goes through an unfortunate experience, but due diligence is important. things are not the way that they are in our home country. And so rushing to purchase a property or rushing to start a business isn't going to be in your best advantage. Do the research in your home country before, and if you absolutely don't feel like you get enough information, don't just assume that the person that you reach out to online is telling you the truth. Get on the ground, do some research, make sure you're going to the right offices, talking to the right people, the ministry, and even, because that's what they're here for. They're here to give you positive, viable, proper information. And so the random person that you meet that's driving you around, I'm not saying they're not talented and they're not professionals in other fields, but I wouldn't necessarily trust my savings retirement on Kaka, driving the Bolt. I'm just saying, I'm gonna ask around. I'm gonna get maybe a couple of different recommendations, right? Don't do that, y'all. Don't do it. I promise you. I promise you. Take your time and ask the right people the right questions, and you'll be glad you did. Okay? The number 9 thing that I wish I would have known before coming back to Tanzania was how affordable healthcare is. Now, I did have several visits to the hospital with my children, and it was always super, super affordable. But I did have to have a small procedure done that I knew I didn't want to have done in the US. I didn't want none of that smoke in these US hospitals. And my plan was originally to go to South Africa and have my treatment done. Well, my friend here, who I've developed a relationship with, who is a medical professional, swore to me up and down that he had at his hospital some of the best surgeons available. And it wasn't that I was doubtful. I had to shift my perspective a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I had to shift my perspective and say, okay, even though it doesn't look the way that I'm used to things looking, it doesn't mean that it's not as exceptional, if not even more exceptional than my perspective, my past perspective. So not only was the care affordable, but it was actually better than the care that I've ever received in a US medical facility. And so a lot of times, when we're leaving our home countries, we rush to get our medical procedures done. I don't sway against that, but if you're doing that because you think that you can't get adequate care in the country that you're going to, one, I would consider why you're going to some place that you have that thinking about, but two, you can actually have that level of care, if not better, in your new country of residence. And so, I've had my braces done here. I've had, again, the surgeries, medical exams. Not only, again, is it affordable, but exceptional at the same time. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. You believe me? What you feeling? How you feeling about that? I'm telling you the truth, right? I'm telling you the truth. Trust yourself and know that you can get that same level of care in your new country of residence, right? So number 10, the last thing I wish I would have known before coming back to Tanzania. And for those that have never been, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, right? Even though we're coming to a country where everyone looks like us, we don't all share the same perspective. Even in the diaspora community, we are all coming from different walks of life, and we all have our different reasonings for why we are repatriating or relocating to said country. And so while most people are going to be welcoming and going to be positive and going to be enriching your experience, I do believe it's most people. There will be a few folks that aren't necessarily on that same vibration. Okay? Know if you know. And knowing that and using discernment in how you cultivate relationships right? Who you trust. This goes back to knowing how to structure your business, knowing the legalities around purchasing land, you know, all of those things. Use a level of discernment, because just because we're calling each other brother and sister, dada and kaka, just because these folks look like us, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are sharing our best interest. And again, while it is most of us are, and I'm also speaking of diasporans that relocate, African Americans coming and African Americans cultivating together. Just because we are coming from an experience that is shared doesn't mean we can all go in the same direction together. Okay, so I said a lot, and I'm gonna ruffle some feathers with that one, but based on the experiences that I've had and the experiences that I see other people have, I think it's really important to know that and to be aware of that, and not to be upset by it, but again, to just have that level of discernment and that critical thinking that allows you to move accordingly. So if you've enjoyed this content and it's been relevant for you, please be sure to like it and share it with someone else who would find value in it. I would appreciate it, and I know they would. And if you have an interest in relocating to the continent, specifically in Tanzania and South Africa, and you just don't know where to start, I'd love to support you. So I will leave a link below where you can book a call with me to talk about everything from relocating yourself and your family, visas to vaccinations. And if you're looking at expanding your business here on the continent, I'd love to work with you as well. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.